And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. Rassie Erasmus has named his side, ladies and gentlemen, and I tell you what, get ready for the show. Get ready for the show. That is my biggest reaction to this side because, goodness me, is it a proper side. And I tell you what, I don't think we can get much stronger, to be honest. I genuinely think in the squad we currently have, the way we want to play, all the various different things coming into it, I don't think we really get stronger than what I'm looking at in front of me because we've actually brought better players back in to a team that already put 60 points on Argentina. And it is looking like good conditions at Twickenham as well, which means that hopefully we're in for some really, really good running rugby on Saturday. Right, people? You're now looking at the team. And I want you to know very, very simply, are you happy with this side? Are you happy with this Springbok team? What are we saying? Simple yes or no, people. Simple yes and no. And in a little bit, we're going to have a look at the team we picked this morning and how close we were. I think we're pretty much missing I think we're actually bang on. I think we are actually bang on to what we might have actually got a full 15 points, 32 points. So we'll look at that very, very shortly. Like, people, get in the comments, drop it. What are we saying? 93% people saying they are happy, 7% people saying that they are not happy. And we're going to go through what Rassie had to say, for example, and what some of the thinking is for some of these selections, and give you a bit of insight into exactly what the kind of the chat is, really. And I'm very interested to see what everybody has to say about the side as well, because I think that if you don't like the team, for example, I'm very interested to see where you can find potential issues, because I just think it's a phenomenal team. Let's go have a look at exactly what he had to say, though, shall we? And kind of get an idea of where Rassie Erasmus' mind is at. And let's go to some of the comments, shall we? He said as follows. He said, this match is a final for us, and we know how dangerous Argentina can be. So we selected combinations we feel will be best suited to this game. I mean, that's a really, really long-winded way of saying that this team is the best team we've got, I think. Yes, they've looked at Argentina, for example, and they've made those assessments. But at the end of the day, I think in the current squad, on form and combinations and the way we want to play, for example, I don't think we get any better. I truly, truly don't think we get any better, and it's proper. He said there are minimal personnel changes, with the bulk of the team having done the job for us last week against Pumas in Durban and our other Castle Lager Rugby Championship matches. Oxen Grant could have played last week if we really needed them, but Bowen and Mornay did really well, while Jesse was rotated in the last two matches and is raring to go. Funny enough, somebody actually spoke about the fact that JC looked really upset in the stands, for example, like he really wanted to be on the side, and they're saying basically he was itching to go into it, and I think you're probably quite right, to be honest. I think every player who is not involved at the moment, especially in those kind of games, you want to be involved in these record. The last time he played, they lost. So there's definitely a lot of players who are desperate to go and get involved in what has been such a positive few games and want to be part of potentially historic type of scores. He said, but in terms of speaking about the rest, he says the same applies to Bongi, who last played against Australia and is excited for this opportunity. He spoke about the fact that their experience combined with the younger players in the team makes this an exciting squad, which is exactly what we need in a match that will essentially be the Rugby Championship decider. He said last week they were in the running to win the title, and they'll be determined to make up for that result regarding the Pumas. He said, so we're expecting them to throw everything at us on Saturday. He said they may be out of the title race, but they have beaten the All Blacks, Wallabies, and British and Irish Lions this season, and it will be a big target for them to defeat us as well. So it's going to be another hard grind. I think he's very right about that, in terms of the fact that they can't win the Rugby Championship, but their biggest scalp right now would be to beat the Boks. And I think that with the Rugby Championship not being accessible or winnable anymore, it doesn't get any bigger. I personally don't think than beating the Boks. So it's definitely a lot of incentive for them. Without a doubt, there's a lot of incentive to try and win this weekend. But obviously, we've got more incentive than anybody because we want to go win the Rugby Championship. Before we start breaking down the team itself and looking at the combination, the likes of that, please do smash a like. We've got over 600 people watching, less than 50 likes. Those ratios don't work for me, people. We got to pump them up. Let's go on a bit of a like train. Let's go on a subscribe train. We're on 96,412 subscribers as I speak about this now. Let's see. 96,436. Got a few since this morning. As we speak, let's go see if we can get up to, I don't know, 96,500 or something. Let's get those likes up. And also, we spoke this morning about the fact that we're now going to start a bit of a push. We want to try and get a new member every day because that will take us to 300 members by the end of the year. So please, if you consider becoming a member, it is the pinned comment. We are trying to get one a day. We haven't had our one for today. So you could become that person. You get a very cool little animation when it comes up on the screen with your name on it. I mean, come on. I mean, take my money, quite literally. And then if you would like to feature in the Rassie's Coaches Corner over there, like Pan over the weekend, who's a big supporter of the channel, send a super chat. Get it in there. Get your hot takes. And people talking about Kobus Reinach, put your hot take in the comments and see what you got to say, because that's what we want to talk about. Let's go through some of the comments, shall we? Whilst you guys all, get ready and get ready to join members clubs and the likes of that. K3A, who's one of our members, says, inject that team straight into my veins. Inject it. Yeah, no, I agree. Ultimate says, basically the same team from last week. Heinrich says, already saw the team. Rassie going for consistency. Matthew earlier saying, breaking. Due to the number of prop injuries, Rassie has also run to come out of retirement. He's got the next best thing, really. Well, potentially the better thing. And that is Ox in shares. One of our other members earlier said, Anya says, I told you Bongi will be on the bench. Well, there we go. And did you get that locked into my picks? Because don't tell me. Go put it into my picks. And then we can go and see if you did do it. Eric reckons second half, Moody to win, Creel at 13. Kid Senecal said, I've missed my boy Bongi. Jean asked me what my thoughts about Grant. I think he's exactly where he needs to be. I've always said, I think he's so good. He's so good at bringing impact off the bench that I think that this is... I think that's where he is. I really do. I think that is the best place for him. Josh says, I low-key think with Vilko coming from the bench, there's still a future for Mal Herbert to come back. Tommy says has to be the best time. Contender says Bongi is back, but no Pollard. Correct. Short says, I think we need Andre in the 23 jersey. Then we'll be the strongest team. Mike says Kobus Reinach was a little chatty with the ref last week. David said this team is tops. Very happy with this team. And Heinrich then saying, maybe just Andre Estesen for Jesse. Rugby Championship winning team, says Lydia B. Christian says, would have liked to see him Faf or Mornay. Yeah, I also wouldn't mind seeing him to be. But let's get into it, shall we? What are some other comments saying? Kajul said, chose Rassie as the coach this morning, so I get a bonus point for that being correct as well. Nice try. Yeah, we'll go and have a look at how many people got it right, to be honest. But let's go into the team, shall we? So the big change in the front row is obviously Oxenshare back for Bowen Fenter. I don't think Bowen Fenter played badly last week. I truly don't. I think he scrummed reasonably well. I think he could have got a bit more reward for scrums, really. But yeah, I think that was a big step in the right direction. I'm a big fan of him. But I think bringing back Oxenshare, you now brought back arguably the best loose head in the world. And that is only going to be a big thing. In terms of scrum penalties, getting scrum penalties, this is the player you want to bring in. So we've gotten a bit better there in the front row. And I mean, this pack, if everybody was fit, if absolutely everybody was fit right now, the only change you might consider making is maybe a Frans Maherber in the number 3 jersey. Probably, for me. I don't think there's any other change, if everybody was fit right now, that you would make to this 8. I think that, and even then, we don't actually know what kind of form Frans Maherber is in. So I think this is pretty much our strongest pack we've ever had this year so far. And I think this is probably, if it was a World Cup final tomorrow, I think this pack would be very much close to what we would love to select. And I think that is the big thing. So TJ Hendricks says, geez, this bench. Antti says, Rassie is messing around with some players. Paul and others could have played URC last week instead of hanging around Bok camp knowing you are not playing. Yeah, I don't think it's that simple, in all honesty. I think it's a case, you can't just send players back for URC because they're not going to be involved, because you don't know they're going to be involved. There could be an injury tomorrow, for example. Yes, maybe we could have taken a smaller squad. Morne van den Berg playing for the Lions, for example. I mean, I tell you what, I would love to see, they might even do that. I would love to see him get released tomorrow and say to the Lions, well, would you want to use him? Would he be an option? And if so, then send him across to Italy and get him involved over there. But, I mean, I think Andre Pollard will probably, I'd be surprised if he plays much for the Bulls even after this, to be honest. TJ Hendricks says, 100k subs loading. We're getting there, people. We're getting there. But I can't get there by myself. I can't go and create 3,000 profiles. So I need you guys to drive the subs. So as I said, share it with your nan. Share it with your grandfather. Share it with your neighbor. Share it with your dog. Share it with your enemies. I mean, come on, people. There's people out there with thousands of friends. Get them all to subscribe. Let's become the first South African rugby community to get to 100,000 subscribers. That is the chat. Eric says, just glad for Bulls' sake, Rassie did not call up Steenekamp and Kurt Lyon said they need game time in the URC. Vernon now saying, the only thing I would change is starting with Grant at 9, put Morne on the bench, basically drop Kubas at 9. James Parker says, top team, let's hope we get the job done. Yeah, let's talk about the 9-10 combination. Now, I think that we're talking about the 9-10 as a combination very deliberately, or I am at least, because I think that we're seeing a very good relationship between Kubas, Reinach, and Sasha, and it makes me very depressed to think that that is the Stormers combination. Because they get to go from here to go and play for the Stormers in the same combination, which is mental for John Dobson and the likes. It's huge. So in terms of that, it's going to be really cool to see what they're going to do when they go back to the Stormers. I think that's probably why they're gone with in terms of a combination. Look, I think Kubas Reinach's been playing well. I think that he's really. I mean, and I've been critiquing him the last couple of years, but I think that he's actually been really, really good. So I don't have an issue with him playing at all. And I'm a big Morne van den Berg fan, for example. And I think he is potentially the future. But right now, I think Kubas is playing some great rugby, and I think he's really partnering well with Sash. And I think they've got a combination there. And I really also don't mind Grant Williams on the bench. I think that's where he's best, in all honesty. I genuinely think that Grant Williams is best off the bench. I think he brings so much impact. I think he really ups the ante in the second half, and he really helps us put teams to the sword, much like Amari Leibach's been doing at the moment. So I don't mind that at all as well. So I don't mind that. I think moving forward, interesting to see if maybe a Morne starts with Grant coming off the bench. Saw Morne coming off the bench, played really well actually off the bench over the weekend. So he may have made a bit of a mistake of a claim with regards to being an option off the bench if you want to go with a Grant Williams starting. Christian says, I'll take Steenekamp over Bowen. Daniel was saying, what a great set of forwards for Sash Famagomazoo to play behind. Could he break 40 points? He would have to score a few tries to do that. But you never know. You do never know. And then in terms of the rest of the backline, well, it's unchanged. And I suppose if it's not broken, why fix it, is as far as I'm concerned. And the thing is, it's not like you're now not giving players a chance. It's not like, we're just... Because if you want to rotate, you're kind of almost giving the older players a chance these days. You'd be rotating to give a Marcus Mapimpi a chance. You'd be rotating to give if Jess Creel started, a Creel start. So this very much is a bit of a new age team as well. Yes, Damien Day-Lindy is there, so you could argue Andre Esterhuizen plays. But to be honest, Andre Esterhuizen has been playing probably more games than any. I mean, he must have at least 7 caps so far this year. because he's been such a constant in the number 23 jersey, in the number 12, moving around. So if we look over here, so far he has been involved, and from a Springbok point of view, Barbarians, Italy, Australia, New Zealand, Argentina. So 6 games so far. So what's he missed? He's missed 1 Italy test, missed the Georgia test, and he missed the other Argentina games. Yes, he's only had 2 starts, but I think that's quite significant in the fact that he has been playing a lot off the bench to really good effect. And even if you look at his minutes, for example, he played 2 full 80s. He played 36 minutes against Barbarians, got 43 minutes against New Zealand. So he's been a big part of the Boks this season. He's probably played more minutes, I reckon, than maybe Damien de Allende has, in all honesty. So even that's not we talk about rotation. I think it's healthy rotation. Angus says Villy should start. Villy's on the squad, so it wouldn't have been the case this weekend. And Liza Fitness says, I hope Pumas keep their discipline again this weekend. They can play dirty sometimes. Dwayne says, I would have swapped Vandenberg with Reineck and leave De Allende for Estesen. Muff says, what about Steenkamp, who was the starter in front of Ox? I don't think, no, he's never been the starter in front of Ox, and he will never. And I mean, how many games? I don't think he's ever played ahead of Ox in the number 1. I mean, let's see how many games did he play for the Boks. Okay, played Autumn Nations. He was off the bench. He played. If we go back before then, Argentina off the bench. Yeah, I mean, Steenkamp's never started a game for South Africa. So, I mean, I think that probably shows you that that's not the case. He's always been he's been, since he started playing, he's been the backup, but 11 games and he's never started. So he's never been the number 1 ahead of Oxen Chair. Just not the case. But I do think that, we talk about our strongest 23. Yeah, tell you what, Young Ninja Vessels is making a strong case. I must say, I'm a big Gerard Steenkamp fan, but I think he's making a strong case. I really do. If look at the back 3, I think obviously Curtly Aronson can come back into the mix. You've got Napoli Fasu to potentially come back into the mix. But right now, Ethan Hooker's sitting there saying, well, look what I offer. So I think we are maybe 2-3 players away from being as strong as we possibly can be, in all honesty. And I think that is very, very important. Contender says, if we see Willemse go off like what we saw on Saturday, Sasha will move to 15. Kriel come on for Dukes, Hooker to 12, Kriel 13, Moody to Wing, or we have Kriel 14, Colby 11. Dwayne van der Merwe says, would have left Bongi for Manus van der Merwe, the namesake. In terms of the vice captain, it's a good question. They don't really tell us usually in the press release itself. But let's go to some of the stats, by the way, before we go to some of the other comments. Springboks have won now 11 of their last 30 matches against the Pumas, going back to 2018. They've only played in London once, and that was the bronze final of the 2015 Rugby World Cup, where we beat them 24 points to 13 at the Olympic Stadium. Siya Kolisi will play his 98th test, leaving him only 2 games short of becoming the 9th Springbok Centurion in the history of the game. And I think that he'll probably reach that. My guess is potentially Dublin. That will be my guess in terms of what they're looking to do. I think he'll start against France. I don't think he'll start against Japan. Probably won't start against Italy, and then he'll start against Ireland and Dublin. That, for me, will be my guess. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't go on the tour at all, for example. So I'm predicting Dublin as his 100th test. And what a cool place to play your 100th test. And what a big match to also make your 100th appearance. Eamon Etzebeth will extend his record as the most caps Springboks to 138. Sash Famagomazoo and Jesse Kriel have both scored 95 test points and require only 5 to make it to the 100 in the green and gold. The total test caps in the starting lineup are 797. There are 264 caps in the back line, 533 caps among the forwards, and the bench there are further 343, which means the average caps per player in the back line is 38. The forwards 67. Players on the bench average 43. So it's incredibly experienced, and yet it's not that old. It's not that old. Yes, there are older players, but I don't think there's anybody in this 23, with the exception of maybe Kobus Reineck, maybe Siya Kolisi, where there are question marks about whether they're going to make the next World Cup. How exciting is that? Maybe Bongi Mbambi as well. So Bongi Mbambi, Sasha, And I think Sia, more from an injury point of view, to be honest, than an age profile point of view. I worry about his knee. But that's it. Everybody else from an age profile here can get to the next World Cup. So this could be a World Cup final team, for example. And that is what I think was one of the most exciting parts of this entire selection, is the fact that this is very much what we could see in 2027. Yes, there's still players to come back, and there's some younger players to come back. And I played a Rassie, for example, who, I mean, it's much the same age as Damian Willemse, but, you know, Morley van den Berg starts ahead of Kobus Reinach. The age profile drops a bit. You've got a Cameron Hanekom who can potentially come into the side. You've got a Elric Lowe who can come into the side, younger player. So I think that that's one of the biggest parts of this entire team, is that this is not a team that is completely aging out. We've brought in younger players in the forms of a Jan Hendrik Wessels, a Caden Moody, Dave Vince is young, Sasha's young, Jasper Wies is in a great age profile, Ruan Okia is one of the younger players. So we have brought in new players. I mean, for example, players that didn't play in the 2023 World Cup final, who are in this side, which we're talking about as one of our strongest sides, include Thomas Tutoy, Ruan Okia, Kobus Reinach, Sasha Vanagomazulu, Ethan Hooker, Caden Moody, Jan Hendrik Wessels, Volko Lowe, Grant Williams, Monty Liebach. That's 10. 10 of the 23 did not play in the World Cup final. Did I say Thomas Tutoy? Oh, Malcolm Marks also didn't. So 20 to that's 11. So it's about 11, around 11. I might have to recard it, but about 11. Almost half this team did not play in the World Cup final, but are involved here. So I think that is really, really cool to see, because we are seeing a new generation coming through. And that's what the worry is, that it's an aging team. But even in the players who are aged that we've mentioned is are players who are really, really there's a lot of competition for their position. So Anti's saying Delende and Creel also a bit old. You're not wrong. Esther Hazen's in a nice age profile. Kanan Moody's in a phenomenal age profile. I mean, he's early 20s. I mean, what, 21, 22? Damian Willemse, option at 12 as well. So there's other younger options there. Kobus Reinach, for example, one of the older players, but you got Morley van den Berg, who's there, came on last week. You talk about Sia Khaleesi, but you got Marco Verstappen, who's in a really good age profile. So I think Eric might have said it. Eighth man, Eric B over there saying, I think he made a comment about the eighth man stocks. We do need to definitely strengthen those. There is a bit of an injury crisis at 8. And I think that there are lots of players who can step in and really fill that gap. But Cameron Hanekom, the big one, Ulrich Lowe, those are genuinely a good option as well to look at. So I just think we're in such a good position. I think that's the main thing. I'm just so excited and buzzing looking at this team, because I just think we are in such a strong position. And it's so exciting to see that. Because we were very negative a couple of weeks ago after that Australia loss. And I said we had to be cautious. I said we had to be careful about getting too negative. I said we need to understand that there are some inconsistencies, for example, that there are maybe just a bit of worries, but it's about how we answer them and how we respond to them. And I think that we have answered and responded to them so well. Piardi is the referee this weekend. Andrea Piardi, who I don't think had the greatest time last week when he refereed New Zealand versus Australia. So hopefully for a stronger game from him. And he will be assisted by Nika Amashikeli, very good referee, and Ewan Cross. Ian Tempest is the TMO, and your bunker is Matteo Leperini. In terms of some other comments out here, Marcus here, what happens if comes back with his old form back, that form that turned him to a Springbok? Well, then we celebrate, we have beers, and we chuckle at the disgusting amount of depth at outside centre we have, not even including the likes of a Lorenzo Julius and a Henko van Wyk, who I think are both primed to be pretty world-class. That is what happens if Lukhanyo starts banging the door down once again. It can only be a good thing. It can only be a good thing. The Aristocrat Utensil says, we have Hanekom and Wies at 8. We're all right at 8. As I said, plus an Ulrich Lowe, I think is more of an 8 for the box than a 7 in terms of the way he thinks. I do think number 7's a position we could work on a bit of depth, but you got a JL Dupree. He hasn't played much, but I think Vincent Tuka, I saw enough there to be really excited about him. So there is that option as well. The aristocratic utensil says Pollard isn't needed. He's all right. Elias says we need to get his form back ASAP. Well, I think we'd like him to have it. I mean, need in terms of there's nobody else. I mean, is maybe not quite the case, but obviously we'd want to have that kind of selection headache, and I look forward to having that selection headache. Mrs. Max says you gain experience by just being part of the team, even if you are not playing. Aluta says, how many caps is Reinach on? I can tell you that. Kubas Reinach is on 45 caps. So your milestones in waiting. Peter Steph the Toy, 92 caps. Damien Delendi, 92 caps. They will be set for 100 caps probably next year. Sia Khaleesi getting very close to that 100 caps. Malcolm Marks, 83 caps, also potential. I mean, it's interesting that 9 Springboks have reached the 100 mark before. And now we've got, and one of those is Willie LaRue, just by the way, and one of those is the Eben Etzebeth, who's currently in the squad. But in the next couple of years, we could very well have Springboks insurance in the forms of Damien Delendi, Peter Steph the Toy, Malcolm Marks, Sia Khaleesi. I don't think Bong's going to get there, sadly enough. He's 80 caps. Will he get another 20? Maybe. I mean, Jesse Creel's at 83. I think he probably gets there as well. So you've probably got about 4 or 5 players who are potentially going to get to the next few years. And after that, it's going to get interesting because, you know, Damien Willemse, 44 caps, surely has to get to 100. He's still so young. Chesn Colby, 45 caps, probably doesn't get there. You know, Sash at 14 caps at his age, he could get there. Kanan Moody has already got 19 caps. He definitely gets there if he continues his form for the next, decade. Ethan Hooker, for example, is one of those longer looking, potentially he could get a cap. Janija Vessels, I think, is a potential Centurion in making. I don't think Quaka gets there. He's got 58 caps. Well, that's a lot to go. But it's quite cool to see how many of those, and that sort of shows you how generational the Springbok side is. You know, the fact that so many players of this team, this generation, could become Springbok Centurions because we've got such a strong squad at the moment. Edgy Bro says Moody is class, but I missed 2019. He was the best in the world back then. You're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. Eric says Sasha FM to open up your game, Pollard to close it. Victor Swart said, no Pollard, no happy me. The day will come when we lose when we lose by a kick. But I mean, Sasha wasn't 8 from 9 last weekend. Marnie actually, ironically, has been kicking very well in the last few games. The Aristocrat Utensils, my biggest worry, honestly, is at 5 and 2. So, I mean, I think at 5, obviously, Luta Yaga still remains an option. I think Ruan Nokia has really put his hand up. Long term, obviously, in terms of Arcus Statement's obviously also an option at 5. I think that in terms of Hooker, well, for me, a lot of it depends on where Janendra Vessels kind of settles, whether he ever does settle, which is also a question mark in itself. You know, is he genuinely going to sort of settle in the number 2, or is he just going to continue doing what he's doing and off he goes? But I really do rate Marius van der Merwe. I think he's a class player. I do think that we need to see a bit more from my younger hookers, the likes of Andre Hugo Venter, a JJ Kotzer, Johan Kobbelaar, for example. You know, the likes of Pheasant Barter, players who have all kind of been in the box here before. I think we need to see a bit more from them in terms of banging that door down. I think Marius van der Merwe was banging the door down, but over for Scarlets, and I'd love to see him doing that down in South Africa. Joander says, do you also feel the new guys force the flashy style, big passes, risky plays, low percentage chances? Feels like they chase the wow factor, but that's when knock-ons and silly mistakes creep in, risky. No, look, I don't think it's necessarily even a South African problem, to be honest. I do think younger players have got more developed skill sets because the game is progressing like that. We look at how mobile forwards have become. You look at Janendra Vessels is a loose head prop in theory, and he plays the game like a loose forward, which we've seen in like the form. I mean, we see evolutionary players. If you think of what not Dan Cole's his name's completely escaped me, but the way he played. It'll come to me. But there's certain players, for example, that really change the way that you look at it. I think Andre Estes is kind of becoming a bit like that. The fact that he covers now 7 at center and, really does genuinely cover center and 7. So I think that younger players are really becoming versatile and love the skill sets the likes of that. So I think in terms of, are they forcing a flashy style? I think we're having to adapt to a new style, because that's kind of how things are starting to go that way. How rugby's starting to go that way. You look at the kind of rugby that Ireland's playing, for example, ball in hand. The All Blacks kind of played that rugby for a long time. But I don't think that it's a case of necessarily low risk or for example, us having to adapt to the players. I think it's just we've kind of decided this is how we want to play. We want to play this the next World Cup, and these are the players that suit the game. And I also think they've been given a bit more license. I don't think, and I think that several things can be true at the same time. I think that Damon de Allende has the capacity to. I mean, Tony Brown described him as the best passer in the Springbok backline, which is a wild shot because Monty Debok for me is the best passer in that side by a long way. But for many years, his role was auxiliary flank and run over players and the likes of that. And I think all of a sudden we're starting to see a game plan which allows more license from these players to express themselves, which is good. And so I think it's a bit of a both. I think you've got the younger players who like to be a bit more ball playing. You look at like a Jan Henry Vessels, he's a baller. Man's a baller. You look at a Ruan Nokia, man's a baller. And these guys have all got Rassie Erasmus. I mean, the type of skill set he's got. But I also think that we are at the same time as where these more younger players who enjoy the flair are coming through, we're trying to play that kind of brand of rugby, and it kind of also is starting to align at the same times. Dean Adams says, future trio is Albert Lowe, Augustus, and Hanekom. Yeah, you could then put Augustus at 8, Albert Lowe at 7, Hanekom at 6. I would love to genuinely think that Cameron Hanekom is our solution at 6. Nothing against Marco Verstappen. I think he's currently our backup. But I think that long-term, Cameron Hanekom settles at 6. And I think that's the right position for him. Because I think if you're Cameron Hanekom coming off the bench, for example, for Sia, and, you could go with a 6-2 split with a Cameron Hanekom, a Arches Neyman, and a Kwaka Smith. And you could have Kwaka Smith coming on at 8th man, for example. And you can have a Cameron Hanekom covering 6, 8, probably potentially cover 7 as well. Ruan Nokia can cover 7 as well. And so, we've got lots of other options there. The Evil Jabberwocky says, De Allende was a 7 for a bit against Argentina. David Watson says, JJ Van der Mesh, go watch his highlights. Could be a good impact player. Made his debut for Northampton this past weekend. With the long hair. Huge, absolute unit. I think there was a video that, I'm sure it's Northampton. And they did a video basically of him holding a ball, and the whole point was to try and get the ball off him, and nobody could. And he's just so strong. And I think his biggest issue has always been his fitness, and he's had to really embrace that. And I think that he'll get a lot fitter being in the Prem. Top 14 there, you can get away with that sort of really big, bulky. I mean, you look at some of the massive locks that they've got, the Samoans, the Tongans, the Georgians. You can get away with being that side. I think in the Prem, he'll might slim down a little bit. I'd love to see him go to Japan for a bit, actually. But I think he's a very, very talented player. He's kind of been lost a little bit over the years. Dahir Rahim says, think of who isn't playing too. Asanati, Manus, Lurt, Hanekom, Chatuka, Ruiz, Pollard, Morney van den Berg, Kurt Lawrence, Edel van der Merwe. The list goes on and on. And Just Me says, Ruan Nokia is a well-deserved block. Used to watch him play at the Bulls, and he had an incredible work rate, accompanied by sheer discipline. Good for him. Well, I mean, we always said that he was the next Franco Mostert, isn't it? And he's really, I think he's turned into exactly that. And I think Franco Mostert will go down as arguably the most underrated Springbok of all time. You talk about somebody who I would love to see get to 100 caps, and that's Franco Mostert. And he should have gotten to 100 caps. It's actually going to be an injustice that he won't, because he wasn't picked for years where he deserved to be picked. And he's sitting on 81 caps, and he's somebody who I would love to get to 100 caps. Sos is, I still think he's probably our most underrated player of all time. He's just never, he never complains. He doesn't look for the limelight, for example. but his work rate is second to none. I mean, he didn't miss a tackle the entire World Cup playoffs. You know, quarterfinal, semi-final, final, did not miss a single tackle. And yet we'd never really gave him his flowers, to be honest. So the fact that Ruan Okia is now being called the next Franco Mostert is an incredible compliment for Ruan Okia. And I love the fact that we're now starting to call him the next Franco Mostert, because you don't tell people, really, when you name somebody after a player, it's because that player is so good. And you're thinking, goodness me, we've got this next version of a really cool player. And I love the fact that we're now comparing Ruan Okia to Franco Mostert, because we're giving Franco Mostert the appreciation he deserves, and we're giving Ruan Okia the credit for being that exciting of a talent. Mike says, I wonder if Reinach's cut kicks actually worked, or if Sasha only kicked into gear once Reinach was removed. It's a bit harsh. Nightcrawler says, I'll be at the game. We'll enjoy it. Nightcrawler will have our man there. Good old Dan on the ground. Just Me says, I agree with your take on Franco. He's an OG. Hopefully gets to 100. Neville Chapman says, Piatti will be the ref. Oh my God, worst ref. How is he getting international games? He single-handedly effed up the URC. April Bloom records, Kane Moody will def be the most capped. KB says, Franco Mostert was the dark horse in the 2019 World Cup. Yeah, I'm glad everyone's starting to see the Franco Mostert that the Lions fans obviously saw and really liked and backed, because he deserved that. He deserved all the plaudits he was getting. And right, people, I want to look at our My Picks ratings, by the way. Hey, there's our member for the day. And just like that, he's also gifted Favorite Sports membership. So thanks, shout out to Tahiriam, who has been gifted a membership to Timbalani. And that is what happens when you gift a membership, or you get a membership. Your name comes up on the screen with a number, 1 to 15. Maybe we should include 223. You don't get to pick your number, unfortunately. It is automatically generated. But there we go. We've got our member for the day. 1 down, 90-odd, 95, I think, to go. Unless somebody else wants to become a member, in which case then we've got 2 down for the week. But let's go have a look at our team prediction, shall we? And see what we got, because we missed 2 players apparently from the looks of it. So I'm going to bring that up on the screen very, very shortly. And if you did predict, by the way, if you're one of the 52 people, by the way, that's our early record. 52 people predicted the Springbok team on my picks, which is really, really cool to see. End of year tour, we're going to push. I want to get to a team that's been predicted over 100 times. That's where I'd like to get to. But this is what we predicted this morning in terms of our... so the team, as you can see, the team has been announced over there, lineup announced. 26 points, 13 correct players, and 30 correct positions. Where did we go wrong? We went with Grant Williams starting, and Kobus Reinach started. We went with Andre Esterhuizen starting, and Damien de Allende started. So there were our mistakes. So, interesting. I mean, and you know what? One day maybe as a community we'll get this right, but I always think that trying to predict Rassie's team is... Somebody did it last week. We actually showed it. But it's like mission impossible. It really is. To try and predict what's going on in the mad doctor's head is something quite impressive. I think in the last few games it's obviously been easier because we've kept it, but in that sense it's been so strange to a certain degree that we've kept it the same. That in itself has been quite surprising. And that's why he always keeps us on his toes, because we never know, is he going to go, change it, or is he going to keep it the same, which he hasn't often been doing recently, up until the last couple of weeks. But then we've sort of seen a far more consistent selection. So, yeah, who knows? Who bloody knows when it comes to good old Rassie? We have to just keep guessing. But let me know how many points do you guys get? Let me know down in the comments. Which guys did you get? Did anybody get 32 out of 32? We'll go and find it and check to see if you did. Timbalani shouting out to here, who gifted him a membership. Hope you enjoy the membership, Timbalani. You got to show us what you get. You got to drop some of the exclusive emojis you get by becoming a member. So drop some of those emojis and maybe convince somebody else to jump in there with you. Yassine Baker says, clear, we don't need the oldies anymore. 7 points is better than 3. And earlier on, Dale Watson saying, Franco is just a bit smaller, but he put his body on the line. Nokia looks promising and probably a bit bigger. Elias saying, bring him a pimpy for Ethan. Ethan is still a bit inexperienced. They shouldn't rush the boy. Nah, rush him. Rush him. By all means, rush him. He's coping at the moment. And cool experience for him to go and play at Twickenham and have another go and potentially lift that rugby championship. I mean, did you guys see that clip when we were lifting the Freedom Cup? And they gripped him immediately and said, no, come lift it. And I think we forget how young he is and how inexperienced he is, even at a professional level, for example. So that's been really, really cool to see. Dagan Martin says, mine doesn't seem to save. Sadly, didn't get them all right anyway, like last week, unfortunately. There it is. There's our man who got 32 out of 32. Sad that it didn't lock in, but we'll have another more opportunities to go. And there we go. Tim and I is dropping the exclusive emojis that you get it as part of the membership there. The Ian with the glasses, the Sia Khaleesi laughing. We've got a whole bunch of new ones as well that we're going to be rolling out for the end of year tour, which is going to be a lot of fun. So people, thank you for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. We've been going through all the different things. Well done again. 26 points. We will be having a look at exactly who got what, and we'll post later maybe the top predictors on the community chat. And we will then obviously be live tomorrow morning. Once again, or tomorrow afternoon, actually, might do a lunchtime show for you guys tomorrow to have another look at the side that we've got. But until then, going to drop a few World Cup trophies in the comments. If you'd like to get some of those emojis, stuff like that, and really contribute some of those emojis to the chat, then please do become a member. Shout out to Timberlani, who is gifted a membership and is now part of the members club. Remember, we said 1 per day until the end of the year gets us to 300. So please feel free to become a big part of that. Become a member or gift a few memberships. And let's keep building our phenomenal, wait for it, phenomenal community. Smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel on the route to 100,000 subscribers, and I will see you guys